for Howard tonight. He could not make the meeting. I think we're ready to go. Our first line of business tonight is 436 Conestoga Road. Could you come up and state your business here? Do we have anybody? 436 Conestoga. In-ground pool.
Mr. Copez?
Nobody? Okay. Let's move
If
on.
I may, Mr. Chair, I believe if you look at that one, I know the applicant isn't here, but I didn't see, and perhaps, I believe they're mainly here because of the 92 cubic yards of earth being moved, not because there's trees that fall under the purview of the Shade Tree Commission.
Right? Yeah, I just didn't know if they needed to mark those trees, Steve. The trees aren't labeled for us, what they are, what kind of trees they are.
Okay, so we'll get back to the applicant and ask them to put a tree table on, even if it shows that no trees are coming down, but at least to let you know the species.
Yeah, and
Of the tree.
there's no neighbor's trees marked on there either.
Very good. And we'll put them back on the agenda. We'll contact them and see if they can be prepared for next month's meeting.
Okay, we're moving on here to number 2, 600 Maplewood Avenue, single-family dwelling, 3,500 cubic yards of dirt will be left on site.
Good evening. I'm here along with Angelo Capuzzi on behalf of Tom and Jill Nerney this evening, the property owners. We're here seeking approval to remove 19 trees which fall within the construction framework and area of disturbance for the future home site. Based on the current tree replacement formula for Radnor Township, we've determined that 74 trees would need to be replaced at that point. We are also asking for the Commission's determination that the already installed 220 trees, along with the 42 proposed trees for the barn and the house, be accepted as satisfactory for the tree replacement formula. In fact, we surpassed the formula by 4 trees. I have with me this evening the plan, which I think you have a copy of in front of you, showing the home and the 19 trees. I also have the arborist report from December of 2010, which was given approval by the township for the initial removals and cleanup of the property. I also have a list by species of the already installed trees on the property and the proposed trees for the property. I also have with me a landscape plan which indicates the location of the plantings over the property, over the 36-acre parcel. Thank you.
Can I just clarify something? We don't have any replacement plans at all in this, in the things you gave us, right? Okay. Go over that number again with the replacements, since we don't have anything here.
That are currently required or previously?
The whole thing.
We're proposing to install 42 additional trees on the property, and 220 have already been installed.
Meaning they were new, they didn't exist
Correct.
before. And I'm sorry, how many are you taking out?
19.
19, okay.
So if I may, based on your revised, your engineer's revised calculations, by the letter of our ordinance, based on what you're removing, you need to replant 74 trees.
Correct.
You wish to install 40-some-odd trees and use the previously planted trees towards that count.
As credit, correct.
I do have some questions, if I may. How long ago were the trees planted?
They were installed in the fall of 2011.
Okay, and were they shade trees that recommended trees by our ordinance? What types of trees were they?
They were largely on the evergreens. We installed, in fact, 75 large evergreens out of that initial 220.
And is the remainder of the 220 sans the 75, are they shade trees or are they more evergreens?
More evergreens.
Because if you go to the ordinance, it points you to, well, we're the shade tree commission. So the replanting is focused on replanting with shade trees. So, I mean, the commission will have to weigh in on acceptance of trees that were planted well over a year ago towards this count.
Right. We just need to back up for everybody about what the project was. Could you just refresh us again, when it started, because we're going back for a tree count of already, when you first came to us, it was, a lot of people here weren't here at that time.
I understand.
So what it was, if you could just go back in history a little bit to tell, when you first came to us, it was about doing basically some cleanup and clearing.
Correct. When we first came to you in December of 2010, we came with a plan to remove dead and hazardous trees and the initial cleanup on the property. At that time, we had an urban forestry report done. You approved the plan
Right.
to remove the trees. Based upon that initial removal, we were required to install 184 trees. We since then installed 220 trees.
Okay, so the initial requirement was 184,
Correct.
and you're
Would you
at-
like to see that?
Well, I'm just going to do the math real quick to get to where we have to be. So it's 16 and 20, so 36, you put in 36 additional trees than what we required.
Correct.
Okay. So, and then you came back to us again for the barn project, which I don't think there was any tree removal done at that time, right? It was just grading for the next phase of the barn?
We did remove one tree.
Okay, right. So,
At that time, when I came
I think-
for that hearing,
yeah, I think they just
you
said
told us that
it was fine.
substantial plantings had been done on the property to cover the removal of that poplar.
So this go-around, we're taking out some significant canopy trees,
Correct.
viable, healthy trees.
Yes.
So we have a surplus of 36 from last time.
Correct.
Our total count would be 76 of replacement trees, 78 for this.
74.
For the new project? And you're looking to back out those 36?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Get you to 42.
right.
Get you to 42.
Mr. Ward, I would just like to make sure everybody's aware, of the trees being proposed for removal, 9 are heritage trees. So the 9 heritage trees alone would require the 54 trees to be planted, of which some of them are supposed to be large canopy trees.
Right, so it would be, how many how many heritage trees are coming down? 9, so 4, so 36 of those need to be large canopy trees. Because our replacement is 4 large canopy tree, it's a total of 6 large canopy trees for anything over 30, 4 of which are large canopy trees, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we'd have a count on this project just in large canopy trees of 36 for the big ones and We have, what's our number in between that we need to reach, the 24 to 35? What's our replacement there for large canopy?
19 to 29 inch is three replacement trees, 2 being large canopy trees.
Jim, can with the 36, they're all evergreens. Are those qualified replacement trees? Would they be, in other words, if we're using them as the surplus and they're all evergreens, and I'm not sure what species of evergreens, some of them, are they,
Right.
could be just small arborvitaes or?
Right, we're trying to get back into the canopy plus side.
Okay.
So we're just trying to do the math to get us back in there. And we're at a deficit so far with our big canopy trees.
My recommendation would be to, since those, the evergreens have been in the ground well over a year, to follow the ordinance as is. And that way we ensure we're getting the appropriate amount of large canopy trees as part of the project. And I think it's a great thing, and don't get me wrong, that the property owner planted so many additional trees. But the loss of the heritage trees and even the 19 to 29 inch trees, it's considerable on the project.
All right.
Within the trees that have already been planted, 75 of them are trees that will grow over 50 feet tall.
Are they all evergreen trees? Or are some of them like oak trees and other, canopies? They're all evergreen?
They're all evergreens.
It is in our classification that the canopy tree is noted as a deciduous tree, not an evergreen tree. So even though the evergreen will grow over 50 feet, it's not considered a canopy tree, a deciduous canopy tree. So we just need to go back to break the project down. If we could go back to our plan, you can walk us through what's exactly is going to happen.
Just so you know, out of the 42 proposed installations, 12 of them are canopy trees. Okay.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Proposed 42 additional plantings
The new ones, yeah.
do have 12 canopy trees included, and 30 ornamental trees.
Our objective is to create a canopy. I would think that you'd want, especially if you're planting, because everything else is evergreen trees, and you're taking down what are in effect huge canopy trees. We would want virtually all of the new trees to be canopy type trees.
Are you taking into consideration that there's 2,000 other canopy trees on the property?
All right. Are they shown on this drawing?
No, they are not shown. But
We have this thing, right? This sheet? Is that what we were submitted? What's the bottom right corner by your thumb? What sheet is it?
That's sheet one.
Sheet one.
Just, gentlemen, my name is Angelo Capuzzi. I'm with Chester Valley Engineers. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of that sheet one that you're looking at, which is up on the screen. That's the overall plan of the property. It's a 36-acre property. It's located to the east of the Brook Farm subdivision, and it's bounded on the north side by Maplewood and on the south side by Brook Road. And what Rita was referring to is back in 2010, I think, there was an arborist that came out and did an evaluation of all the trees on the property, and he's the one that came up with the estimate that there's in excess of 2,000 canopy trees on the property already, most of which are located within the steep slopes, which are those darker shaded areas on that plan. But there are also plenty of trees that run along Maplewood. I'll let her explain them where they are. She knows the site better.
This is Maplewood Avenue. This entire area is completely wooded area. The back side of the proposed home location is completely wooded. Coming down Brook Farm Road is completely wooded. All the way down to the intersection of Brook Farm Road and Brook Road is wooded. Coming up Brook Road is wooded. Around the wetland areas is wooded. The only area of the property that was not a wooded section would be the area that ran up this side along the Myers, the Talbot's property. That is where, as you can see from this landscape plan, a large number of trees were installed on the fence line there.
Can you move
That-
it over
on
just
that
a little
pla-
bit? I just wanted to see,
Excuse me?
it was cut off when you had shown that last drawing, that's all. Could you just move it over a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, there you go, I got you.
No, those are all trees that you planted, all those
Yes.
dots.
Yes. Okay. Also, the area behind the cow's residence here is wooded. This area along the fence line between the Nerney property and the cow's residence that runs out to Maplewood is wooded. In addition, it's what I call the mounded section of the property, because it's just kind of like a hill there where we have the trails going around now, completely wooded. In addition to that, the hillside along the existing carriage house, completely wooded. Behind the carriage house, completely wooded. The only areas that do not have large amounts of canopy trees as the property exists today are the meadows down at the bottom, the pastures, and the area where the houses plan to go. Everything else is completely woodland.
If we get back to your plan, I think I'm on page 2, showing us some grading and our utility work.
Angela would be the person for that. Is it okay if I do?
Angela, you want to go over the underground utilities with us, just step by step, where they're proposed and where they're coming from and where they're going to?
Okay, there, as far as utilities go, there is a drainage collection system which runs around the perimeter of the house. The purpose of that system is to pick up all the downspouts that come down off the roof. And they tie into other storm drainage systems that are proposed for the driveway area, the courtyard, and the back parking area behind the garages. The site is divided basically into two watersheds. There's a watershed that flows to the west and one that flows to the east. What we've done is we've collected all the runoff from the impervious surfaces that are proposed, and we're going to discharge them into 2 underground seepage beds. The first seepage bed is located to the west of the garage area, and all the drainage basically from the western portion of the house and all these driveways on the west side of the property would drain into that system. There's a second system which is located partially underneath the courtyard and underneath this fill area there. That picks up all the runoff from this part of the driveway and from the eastern half of the house and discharges that water into those seepage beds areas. The beds are designed to meet all the township stormwater management requirements as far as water quality, volume recharge, and rate control. And those plans and calculations are with the township engineer right now for review. The other 2 utilities, there's already an existing water service. There's a 4-inch water line that comes up from Maplewood Avenue to the site, which we would reuse for this proposed house. And then the second utility is a sanitary sewer, which would have to be built to service this property. Currently, the existing house, I believe, was on an on-site septic system. Mr. Nerney is going to connect to the public sewer. He's already connected his barn project to the public sewer, and we need to extend the sewer line from the barn area up to the house. And the way we've done that is shown on sheet 1. And what we've tried to do is we followed existing gravel trails so as not to disturb any areas that haven't already been disturbed. And we've kept that sewer line as shallow as possible in order to facilitate construction and limit disturbance. Basically, there's an existing sewer that is built up off of Brook Road. Will tie into a manhole that's located here, run up along through a pasture, and then along existing gravel trails up past the carriage house, eventually to the main house location.
And when it gets up toward the house there, what's our scale here? We're 1:30?
This scale, on which sheet are you looking at?
On sheet 2.
Sheet 2 is 1:30.
There's a couple of trees that are coming out near the clean out, which is probably about 30 feet away from the house there.
You're referring, I assume, to these 2 trees here?
Yeah, there's 2 coming out.
Right.
And then just to the left of that, we have a 38-inch poplar that remains.
Yes. You're correct.
What's the distance from that line to that poplar tree there?
It's 40 feet.
40 feet?
Yes.
And that's the only other tree that, all these other trees are coming out. That is the only other tree that remains.
Yes, there are 2 other trees up by the driveway area that also remain. And then part of the landscaping plan of that 42 trees that we're going to add, I believe some of those trees are proposed to line the driveway as it comes into the site.
The electric's going on underground too?
Yes, and the electric would have to follow a route that's similar, I believe, to the sewer line.
But in my plan on page 2, you have it going to the left side or the west side of that big poplar now? Is that, it says E?
That's an existing electric line.
Oh, that's existing?
Yes.
That's going to get pulled or?
I'm not sure. I think that services the carriage house.
Okay.
Okay, so until plans are finalized for the carriage house, I'm not quite sure that they would take that electric line out.
Do you know where your electric line is going to be routed?
Well,
at this point?
I don't, but I suspect it would follow a route similar to the sanitary sewer to avoid disturbance of trees and steep slopes.
By code, you can run everything together in the same trench, or?
Well, no, they won't be in the same trench.
It'll be,
They'll be separate trenches.
okay.
But the driveway, the paths and driveways are roughly 10 feet wide, so we would stay to one side with the sewer and the other side with the electric, and gas and electric can go in the same trench.
Well, it's going to be important as far as getting past that big poplar there, what side of that sewer line you're going to take.
Sure, we can bring it out. We can bring it to the other side of the sewer line. We don't have to go. Actually, we want to stay away from that side, from the south side of that sewer line because we're getting close to some steep slopes there.
So you would say it would be on the northeast side of that
Sewer line.
of that sewer line?
Yes.
Both the gas and electric together?
Yes.
On the larger infiltration bed on the east side of the house, the larger water management. is
That one there, yes.
Yeah, is there overfill that's going to come out of that, going down onto that lawn, or is that mostly, how does that bed work?
I would say in a 100-year storm, there might be a little bit of overflow from that system.
That's what it's set to maintain itself for a 100-year storm without?
It's good for a 50-year storm, I know that, probably a 90-year storm, if you want to get that technical about, but there is a little bit of discharge in a 100-year storm.
Just concerned, there's a couple ashes kind of downslope. Rita, maybe you could chime in a little bit. Their location as far as being downhill from that, it'll be to the east side of that big,
those trees are uphill of the discharge
oh, excuse
point.
me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they won't be impacted by any runoff from that area.
Okay.
Jim, can I just get something in here about the replacement formula? I was just checking our ordinance, and, I think it's great you have the 2,000 canopy trees. I mean, that's great, but unfortunately, that's not in our purview to, we're happy you're not taking those down, but as far as the replacement formula, that's not really what our jurisdiction is. 2/3 of the replacement trees are supposed to be canopy trees.
For the
42.
heritage trees.
For the heritage,
Right.
basically, even the smaller,
Yeah, you're right.
the
You're right.
medium
2 out of
size,
3,
2/3 are supposed to be canopy trees. So that would compromise the 36, which are all evergreens. And basically for the 42, I mean, we'd need to see, and I don't, you wouldn't object to that, would you? Making 2/3 of the replacement trees canopy trees as opposed to evergreens?
I'll have to let Rita speak to that point.
We are really looking to have the proposed 262 trees be acceptable to the township in terms of the replacement formulas. We're surpassing it by 4. Everything that has been done on this property has been done with such detail and consideration for the environment. None of these removals impact the perimeter of the property in any way. I mean, if you were to have 3 houses built along Maplewood Avenue, I think that we would be talking about a much larger impact than what we're asking for here.
No doubt to take away all the work that you did. I passed by the place. It's a tremendous job, all the hard work that you put in there and how much it's been transformed from when you started. And you've done a great job with the landscaping. And the amount of trees that you've been able to save is great for everyone in the township. I guess our main point is we're just looking at the number of canopy trees at this point that are coming down with the new ordinance that we have installed. And what we're asking for is, if I know that you've already exceeded our limit by planting those 220 trees prior to this.
Correct.
What we're looking at is the number of canopy trees that are coming down at this point now. The place is beautiful, and it will be beautiful for the township for years to come from all the hard work that you've done there. I guess what we're facing here is that the number of heritage trees coming down is a real sticking point for us here when we're trying to preserve the canopy. I know what you're saying. If this was subdivided and it was not like that now, okay, how many trees were coming down?
I mean,
Yeah.
Tom and Jill have saved
Right.
this property.
Exactly. They have, and they've been stewards of their property and their woodland, which is a benefit for everyone in the township, forever. The crux of this is what our new ordinance is right now.
I understand that, and I do respect that. What impact is that going to have on that property? Requiring us to plant 34 additional canopy trees. What impact will that have across this 36-acre parcel that already has 2,000 trees and new ones growing?
I just don't understand what the objection is to canopy trees being part of the replacement formula. I don't, you know, in other words, I see your point that you're doing a lot there, but from our point of view, the ordinance calls for 2/3 of heritage trees to be replaced with canopy trees, and because we see canopy trees as a beautiful and important addition to the environment in the township. So my question to you is, why do you have a problem with the 2/3 of the trees being canopy trees? What's wrong with them?
Our position is that, again, there's over 2,000 canopy trees on the property. We're utilizing the existing driveway to come into the house. We're not asking for any changes in access from Maplewood, which would have impacted perhaps this discussion. And I think everything has been done and planned in such a way that it saved more trees. And what Tom and Jill are asking for is that we've installed a total and the proposed 262 trees. And that is accepted as satisfactory. And taking in everything else that has been done to the property being saved, and the township being satisfied with 262 trees at this point.
The canopy trees, putting them in, they just don't fit into your plan. Is that part of it? I mean, you've got a plan, and that might be, either that's the answer or it's not the answer. I mean,
It is part of the answer. Part of the reason why we're here asking for these trees is also to open the property up for Tom and Jill, for the visual impact that it is going to have on this tremendous property. We wouldn't want to go install large canopy trees right around the house again. I mean, I can attest, whenever the wind blows there, you never know what's going to happen on that property. The wind blows, limbs come down, trees come down. I spend 3 days picking up sticks after a big windstorm. Trust me, I know.
question to the board, do we care where the trees are planted? I mean, she's saying she doesn't want to plant it around the house, which I understand that. Do we care if they're along the, back where all the wooded area is?
But my point to that would be, what impact, what is that going to do with 2,000 other canopy trees around it?
I'm not arguing with you.
Okay.
I'm on Parks and Recs. I'm trying to understand this too. I'm new
Okay.
to the board. So do we care where they're planted? I mean, she doesn't want to plant them near the house. We don't care, right? Okay. And then my next question is, the difference between a canopy tree and an evergreen tree, is it just the looks? Or is there an actual environmental impact between planting a canopy tree and an evergreen tree, or is it? I mean,
It's just how long it's going to live, what it does as a mature tree for the environment, besides what an evergreen tree would do. Its give back is huge compared to what an evergreen tree does.
Okay.
So its longevity and it's basically its impact and status here in the township.
And actually, again, remember, the leaves absorb sunlight. It keeps temperatures and coolers down in the summertime and not so much in the winter. It's just, it's like a giant umbrella. From an energy perspective, which I
Right.
have to do.
So we have two parts of this we have to talk about. The first part is just agreeing on the plan here, what's going on.
okay.
We need to talk about
Mr. Ward, if I may, maybe I suggest that if the applicant could bring together all the information she's brought forward about the tree report on the property, the plantings that were done, and have it in one accessible report for the Shade Tree Commission next month, would that assist in your decision to see that?
I mean, I think we're there, Steve. I mean, it's just the point of, we'd really like to see those 36 trees be planted, okay? Being that you did plant an awful lot of trees, many of them were evergreen trees, we'd like to see 36 trees be planted. If the owner does not want to plant them on the property, he could, in lieu of that, give the money to the tree fund instead of planting trees on the property as an option.
Would you accept 2/3 of the 42 that we're proposing as canopies?
Steve, I think you said 36 need to be canopy, right?
Actually, I believe 46 need to be large canopy trees.
46, I'm sorry.
Based on the current ordinance, 46 would be large canopy trees.
Have a total of what?
74.
Would you accept the 2/3 of the 42 proposed?
What's that come out to? What's that number?
To me, the question is, are we going to
28.
make them install the entire
28.
74?
It would be 28.
Huh?
28 is 2/3
42.
of the 42. I just asked what that question, what 2/3 of 42 would be.
Right. There's 74 replacement trees. So that's
By
where
the-
you got the 46, right?
By the ordinance, a total of, in the aggregate, 74 trees are required.
Right.
Based on the tree replacement formula for the two upper tiers, 46 of those 74 would be, are supposed to be large canopy trees.
And you said you were putting 30 ornamental, is that right? So you're saying 28 of the large canopy plus the 30 ornamental.
Correct.
So that's 58 trees.
No, that's not correct.
It's not correct?
What we were suggesting is we were proposing to plant 42 trees.
Right.
And, well, no, we're still hoping that we get credit for the 36 additional trees we already planted. If you add up all the numbers, we're 4 over with the 42. So take those 42 trees and multiply it by 2/3, which is what your ordinance requires for canopy trees. Take those 42 trees and make 2/3 of those canopy trees, which would be 28. So we'd be putting in 28 canopy trees and 14 ornamental trees in lieu of the 12 canopy trees and 30 ornamental trees that we originally proposed to install. So we're giving you 2/3 per the ordinance, which I think you were hinting at
Right.
earlier. But you're giving us credit for the additional plantings that we've already put on the property, 75 of which are 50-foot high evergreen trees.
Like I say, I'm looking at the fact that of the 74 trees that you will ostensibly have had to install during the course of this, the ones you're getting credit for are all evergreen trees. Is that right?
And I think it should be noted,
No,
it's 46 trees that are required by the ordinance are supposed to be large canopy trees.
Right.
Because based on the ordinance, you have 9 heritage trees being removed, 4 of the replacement trees of the 6, 4 of them are to be large canopy. That's 36 trees.
Correct.
Of the 19 to 29-inch category, 5 trees are being removed. 2 of those replacement trees per tree are supposed to be large canopy. That's 10. So per the ordinance, it's 46 large canopy trees out of a total of 74 required trees.
So we're asking to,
Used with the 2/3, I mean, 46 is the
And I guess the point is, given the fact, what impact would a few extra canopy trees have on this property or to anyone passing by the property? The view sheds are what they are. We're not changing the view sheds. We've already done extensive plantings along the perimeter. We feel that there's more enough canopy trees on the property to satisfy the intent of the ordinance. We're not, I mean, numbers from a quantity standpoint, if we're giving credit for what we did above and beyond last time, we have enough plantings. We have 4 more trees than we're required to have between the last go-around and this go-around. All we're asking for is, and I don't want to use the word common sense, but what difference would there be to the property if we added all those canopy trees?
Right. The only point of the change in ordinance of the canopy trees was to ensure that in 30, in 50 years, when the remainder of these 2,000 trees are in decline, that there is a future in the township for new trees to be coming up. That was the point. That was the whole point of our change in our
And
ordinance.
there are new
Right,
trees growing
exactly,
in
and
the woodlands as we speak
I-
right now.
I understand it. There's a whole variety of big trees and small trees, and trees are dying. And the whole point of the ordinance is to ensure that in the future of your woodland and the future of the property, that there are canopy trees that are coming up in 25 years. And that's what the whole thrust of the whole ordinance was about. So, and
understand that.
there's no doubt about the work that you did. It just that's why we opted to increase the number of canopy trees, is to ensure the future of the township's canopy. There's no doubt that there's 2,000 trees there, and there's young trees and old trees. There's trees dying, there's trees failing all the time. The whole process here was to ensure that there's new trees coming along, and it's 36 more trees that you're going to have to plant to fulfill the requirement. But on the property like that, I don't think it would be a hardship to find this place for them. I know how much you did already as far as your screen trees, but as things had changed, we're just asking for that from you.
Six, Jim. I'm sorry, you said 36, but you meant 46,
Excuse me,
right?
46.
Yeah. Again, well, you could always, contribute to our tree fund, which would be, that would be, useful to us to, and that's what we have that, that alternative available. If you really want to hold to your plan, then we can get those trees planted in another place where they can be used.
Can I ask, Steve, procedurally, the Shade Tree Commission makes a recommendation, and it gets forwarded to the township engineer, and it gets incorporated into the grading permit? Is that how it works?
You also have the right to appeal the decision of the Shade Tree Commission.
I understand.
And that would, so if the Shade Tree Commission is saying, and I don't mean to put any words in their mouth,
right.
you need to do these 74 plantings, 56, 46, whichever that, you have the option and the ability to appeal it within 20 days, and that appeal would go to the Board of Commissioners. And the board shall consider individual hardship considerations of the property owner with respect to cost, property maintenance and stewardship of the property, and such other factors deemed appropriate by the board. So from the grading permit standpoint, I don't know how that would affect you. You're already working out your impervious and your stormwater management. It would be to show these additional trees. But I just wanted you to know there is an appeal process,
Yeah,
should you so wish to do so.
But, I mean, assuming we move forward with this, the tree commission's recommendation get incorporated into the grading permit application?
That's correct, Mr.
Okay.
Capuzzi.
And now, I will make a point here. We have all agreed, if we could find a way you didn't cut the trees down, that would be wonderful, but that's not going to happen if you're going to build it. But that building the building is one thing, okay? And we all agree that there's no reasonable way that we could keep those trees. They're going to be cut down in order to put this house up, and we understand. The only question is what kind of compensation there is for it. So we could go forward, we could say something to the effect is we approve the taking down of the trees. The only thing we haven't come up with is what we're going to do about replacement. I mean, that would enable you to move forward with your construction project is the key.
From the grading permit standpoint, and again, I don't mean to suggest anything, based on this commission's recommendation, you wouldn't have to come back with the grading permit. Whatever the recommendation was, it could be with the caveat that it will be incorporated into the grading permit That way you don't have to come back in May and show them again, show the whole plan again.
Or fundamentally, you're not delaying your construction contract.
Okay.
Thank you,
so-
Mr. Riccone. That's what I was trying to get to, yes.
All right, so you have the ability to approve the removal of those trees with the understanding that we still have to agree to whatever the compensation is going to be for that removal. And that would allow the process, the permitting process to proceed with the understanding we still have to come back and figure that out with you folks. All right.
What I would recommend is, again, just a recommendation, if the applicant agrees to whatever this board requires, and we make note of that in the minutes, and I inform the township engineer on the review, it would be incumbent upon the township engineer reviewing the grading plan to make sure it complies. And like I say, that would stop you. You would not have to come back if that's okay with this board. As long as they comply with the number, type, and size of whatever you recommend, it would save them a trip back to this commission, and they could move forward on what they have to do.
One more
You want to
question.
repeat that one for me? I don't quite follow.
If the Shade Tree Commission requires X trees, compensatory plantings for trees, which are currently not shown on this plan. This plan is in for grading permit. My recommendation, just my recommendation would be, we make note of whatever compensatory plantings you require. That goes to our reviewing engineer. They will make sure that those compensatory plantings are noted on the plan and shown in the appropriate species.
Or they do some other alternative, such as,
Right, and then it moves forward, and that way the applicant wouldn't have to come back to this board again, knowing that the staff has enforced your requirement.
Would escrow be involved in that, Steve?
I have to look on this plan. The escrow is usually for public improvements and erosion and sedimentation control, not for driveways, trees, and things like that. On a project like this, if this was a subdivision and there were street trees planted in the right-of-way, yes, there's going to be escrow for them, but not in this fashion.
And then your department would then make sure the compensatory plantings were in line with this?
Correct. Mary Ann Cassidy?
Right.
She's going to transcribe whatever you say, and that will be emailed off, and they will have to make sure that they comply.
Okay.
Mr.
But they're not
Hughes.
agreeing to that now, so how would we be advised if the snags occurred?
Well, the Shade Tree Commission needs to make a ruling,
Rolling, and then
On
they have to
this.
comply, right?
okay? And
Right.
if they don't wish to comply, they can appeal,
Right.
which means that the grading permit's not going to move forward because
Okay, got you.
there's not, they need to come to a closure
Right.
on whatever this issue is.
All right. Mr. Ward, may I ask one more question before you take your vote? Was it your statement to us that we provide 46 large canopy trees?
Our recommendation, I feel, would just to be to comply to the new ordinance on this.
So we would get no credit for the additional plantings that have already been placed?
Well, on this project, what we wanted to see was the full replacement of the canopy trees.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's 74 trees that have to be replaced, 46 of which are canopy trees.
Right.
Is it going to be your recommendation that we only have to replace 46 canopy trees, or that we have to replace 46 canopy trees plus the difference between 74 and 46?
So that's what we have to
Okay.
discuss right now. Our recommendation this time would be for you to have planted the 46 compensatory canopy trees, and we'll forego the additional trees in lieu of the other planting that was already done.
The difference between the 74 and the 36?
Yes.
I mean, the 46?
Right.
Yeah.
Now.
so you don't have to plant
Okay.
72, you only have to plant 46, but they all have to be canopy trees.
Now, if we were willing to still plant that difference, would you be willing to reduce the number of canopy trees?
We,
I mean,
we'd really like to stick to the ordinance on the canopy tree replacement here. It was the whole crux, it was the whole thrust of the whole project when we started, and the ordinance project. And I know what you've done there. It's just, we're not setting precedent on that part of this here. It is really a vital part of what we worked toward when we redid the whole ordinance. Not to take away from all the hard work that you did, which I understand.
Do you have a problem with half the trees planted there and half the funds donated to the tree foundation or the tree ordinance?
Right, whatever they would want to do, Steve.
That would be, if this commission is saying, you know, there's a mix and match of X large canopy trees and a balance, is the equivalent amount is donated to the tree fund for planting in the township projects. I mean, staff doesn't have any objection to that.
and what is the value placed on one?
I believe it's $500.
500 a tree.
Okay, our current plan does have 12 canopy trees out of the 42 proposed installations. So that would leave us at a 34, excuse me, yes.
Yeah.
34 tree difference.
Yep.
Half?
We can't negotiate that. No,
We gave you as much as we could on that, Rita, really. I mean, that's our recommendation.
Okay,
All right.
I understand.
What's that?
You'll be able to go forward with your project and get your construction permit and all that. Is that
Right.
correct?
I'm sorry, just so I understand, what is the Shade Tree Commission's final recommendation?
Recommendation is to replace the, in total number of canopy trees, which is 46. We're giving grace in lieu of the trees that are already planted, which is the difference between the 74 and the 46.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want to, whether
Call the next one, just so they're ready to go. Who's
Yeah.
next on our list?
Rita, we're going to move it along a little bit. Rita, okay.
I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rita.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is number 3 is 714 Knox Road. Consists of addition, new garage and driveway. 302 cubic yards of dirt will be left on site, removing 2 trees. Could you please come forward and state your name and describe the project for us, please?
My name is Chip Vaughn. I'm representing Jonathan Krause, who's the owner of the property. I'm a local builder in the area. So this is the existing conditions right here. The shaded area that you see here and here are going to be removed. This is driveway. This is part of the existing house. And the 2 trees that are going to be coming down these are 2 8-inch hemlock trees. And the reason for that is they're going to be moving the garage, which is now under the house here, to a garage to the other side of the house here. So that's basically the reason for being here, is just to show that we're going to be taking down those 2 8-inch caliper. A little less complicated than your previous application.
Just a little. Quick question. I can see where the garage is located. Are we going to be able to build that garage and so forth without getting into the root structure, this tree over on the edge, which is what, a 8-inch hemlock, the last one over there, that one?
Well, your ordinance now calls for a 6-foot-high chain link fence, so I'm not sure how we're going to get anywhere near that tree if we get that fence in the right place, so.
All right, Chip, what's our scale here, 1 and 20?
Yes, 1 to 20.
All right, we got that, in that lower, with the south corner there, a 48-inch oak tree.
Correct.
We got some grade changes here going on, we got a driveway going in. What's our distance between the trunk of that tree and, say, that 108 grade line?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring a scale like your previous applicant, but. Duncan, thank you very much. Okay. It appears that the distance is about 25 feet to that grade line, whatever is that word? Looks like we're grading about a 1.5 feet or so of dirt right in this location.
Right. What's the chance of tightening those grade lines up a little bit, that 108 and 106 up to that corner there? You're going down, so I'm just worried about the impact of this oak tree. You're going to be into its root system a little bit, 25 feet. Do you need all that room for that turnaround to get in that garage, or?
I don't, again, I'm not the owner, but I would think we could redo that such that this portion right here could move that way some.
Yeah, could you give me that? Could you give us that
Yep.
portion, tighten that grade line up, give us like 30 feet, maybe we'll get 35 feet out of that?
Yes.
And then put our tree protection
Fence closer.
up as far as we're going?
Yep.
Could we not have like egress between that? Tighten up that fence so we, like when we're moving the topsoil pile, do we think we'll have to go off the driveway cut to get to that topsoil pile, between the tree there? Like if we can keep the equipment from going in that section there, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not sure why it does say we're going to keep the dirt on site, but for the most part, we're going to be taking most of the dirt off site, and I don't even know, it seems to me that the better place to put the topsoil will probably be down where we've taken out the driveway.
Right.
Than even putting it anywhere up near there, so.
Underneath where the garage and the house is that going to be, just like open grade level to outside? Or are you going to actually build up and have that as part of basement
No,
again?
it's just going to stay, so the elevation at this location is about 8 feet lower than the elevation of the first floor of the house.
All right.
So if you this is going uphill as you come around this corner and are headed into the garage. And then there's a bit of a grade change from here down to this lower area.
All right.
But there's actually going to be if I remember right, a sliding glass door of some sort going into where the old garage was, so.
Exactly what I thought. Thank you.
Chip, quick on the water management in the backyard there.
Yes.
You have the spiller coming down due north of your box. Into the area where these.
The level spreader?
Yeah, the spreader into the area where these pines are. Pines don't take the wet feet too well. Whenever you flip the big box west, do you know what I mean? Just the whole rectangular box.
Kind of slide it.
Just slide it west and put the overflow down to get it kind of past that pine there. Would that be a possibility?
So you're saying move this all the way over so that
Just
the
a little
level
bit.
spreader's out here
Exactly,
someplace?
so you can get that spreader box down there away from that pine a little
Well,
bit.
as Duncan will tell you, I'm not an engineer, but,
Because you're working almost the same grade line there.
yeah. So what you're suggesting is to,
Just shift it to the west a little bit. Yep,
right, but to get this level spreader over to here, I mean, I can certainly,
I was just thinking to keep what's going to happen is you're going to
well,
end up.
first of all, I doubt seriously whether much water at all is
Will
coming
come out of that
level
thing?
spreader.
Yeah.
Ever, but, and
I mean-
it might be just as easy, I'm not sure if it would work for you guys, but to pull that level spreader back maybe further up the hill.
If you
so
could do that, yeah, that way we'd have more absorption before we
By
go
the
down
time
into
it gets
Pines.
down that way, it's going to be sheet flow and be dissipated.
What's
pretty
the
much.
box built for? It's built for, I mean, it's built for before it would overflow. I mean,
The level spreader, yeah, it's there for,
I mean,
if the storm gets to a
gets to
certain,
a certain point, then it comes out.
but to be honest with you, these things are usually so much over-designed that, this is a corrugated metal pipe, it's not a pit full of
So
stones.
maybe we just shorten that up just a little bit.
Okay.
And Mr. Ward, if I could, based on the Shade Tree Commission's comments, if they're relatively minimal such as that, I'd request that the applicant, we'll inform the township engineer, and the applicant can move forward with their, as opposed to coming back to Shade Tree
Yeah,
again.
absolutely, yeah. So we're in agreement there. We're going to see if we can reduce that parking area, the back out parking area, move those grade lines up a little bit to get away from that oak tree as much as we can. Try to limit the egress to that, or just move that topsoil pile to where the driveway's coming out.
Right.
And that'll limit the equipment access to the south side of that new driveway cut.
Okay?
All right?
And then we're going to pull the level spreader up.
And pull that spreader back a little bit.
Right.
All right, we're in agreement with that? That's our
In agreement,
recommendation?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, number 411 Earls Lane, single-family dwelling, 1,000 cubic yards of dirt will be left on site.
Good evening. I'm David D'Agostino, and I'm the owner of the site at 11 Earls Lane. Just one note before we start. This application started in 2012, and I think to keep it in mind that we're following the old ordinance under this. So with that, we're proposing to remove 10 trees on the site and construct a home, approximately 4,200 square feet with a footprint of, I think, about 2,000 feet. I think we've been here before. I think the last time we were in the meeting, we were asked to move the driveway. At that point, there was some question on the soil conditions out there as far as the slopes. It was determined that they were man-made slopes. I think that was one of the reasons why it took us so long to come back here. So I guess in front of you tonight is the plan for your review and comments.
Excuse me. I don't see where the trees that are being taken out are Xed out. The ordinance calls for the plans to show an X for any trees that are being removed. I can't.
It looks like they just have a hash. It looks like they missed the other part of the X there. If you
What
look
did
at
they
that.
do?
They have a slash in there. Yeah, they have a slash on each one.
30-inch poplars.
Just to refresh this with us, this was in front of us, Steve?
I believe that this may be is this your third?
It's the third time. We
Third
started this
visit.
process back, I think, in 2010, and then we stopped the project, and then we started again in 2012. So we were in here in September, October 2012.
There was they were looking at a man-made versus natural steep slope situation, and there were comments on the plan, as Mr. D'Agostino said, regarding the driveway, the replacement chart, which they do now have. He does show the trees which are being removed, and he shows the replacement schedule of those trees, which is on page 1.
Commissioner Ward, I think you actually walked this site with me several years ago.
Yeah, it's
And we looked
pretty-
at that.
It's pretty steep, right?
It goes down, it slopes down in the back and everything. There's a pond in the back of the property.
Right.
Yeah, I think we walked it probably somewhere in '09. I think right after I bought the property, there was some storm damage.
Right.
And we went through and I contacted you so I could remove the
there's
trees
big
and stuff.
trees,
Yeah.
Is that pond still there? I mean, in the back it says it's a drained pond.
We drained it. That was a court order from DEP to drain the pond.
And Mr. D'Agostino is correct. This plan is to be reviewed based on the old ordinance, which we brought up at the last meeting also. That's why you'll see in his replacement schedule, the 36-inch tree is the threshold. That's what
Right.
they're using for the,
So,
Can you give me the numbers? I'm sorry. How many are you taking out? And these ones that have the numbers on them, or the letters on them, are what you're replacing?
That is correct.
Okay, so how many are you taking out?
There's 10 of them, I think, that have to
Yeah.
come out.
It says 14.
It says
but-
14, but it's 10. I think there was a typo there, and there's 13 being replaced.
and this is coming back to us after we had already made our recommendations from the last
The
time you were
previous
here?
commission recommended to move the driveway, put the scale, the chart on there for the replacement trees, and the number of trees that had to be replaced wasn't on there at the time. So
That was the only,
that was only, and obviously the steep slope issue.
Right.
With the man-made slopes, I should say, which was also resolved.
so Steve, all these requirements are filled at this time, from the recommendations we made?
correct. Staff has no comment on this at this point. And if you look, we don't have the minutes from, Mr. D'Agostino was here some time ago, but that was the crux of it. When he was, I believe it was in January or,
I think it was November, because the discussion we had was you weren't going to meet in December.
correct.
So we were here in November, and I had to wait till January to come back in, and at that point there, so.
I mean, this is the Shade Tree Commission's, your final shot to, barring any issues, to take a look at it and see if there's any concerns. The main things to my memory were the replacement schedule, the showing of the trees, the driveway.
Excuse me. The replacement trees now are, I don't see, are you designating what the replacement trees are going to be, and are they shown where you're going to put them?
Bottom left, I think you have 4 sugar maples, 3 scarlet oaks, 3 river birch, and 3 white ash.
So these circles that have the letters.
Yeah, the circles on there.
those are- They're going to be planted.
Yeah, they're the replacement trees. I think part of the site, too, you should take that it's an 1.5 acre site without the pond, and then the pond's another additional acre behind it, so it's a considerable size site there for a single-family home.
Just to go back to the replacement trees, I don't think the ash is still shouldn't be on our list anymore because of the,
Prior, because we're following the old ordinance, I mean, the new ordinance, is it?
This goes by the previous ordinance because the new ordinance didn't take effect until March 11th.
okay. I would just recommend a change from the white ash. We have an emerald ash borer problem with the ash trees, so I wouldn't recommend replanting any
Okay.
ash trees. So if you just make a note to change that into another canopy tree of whatever you would
No
want to
problem.
put in there, that'd be great.
You refresh my memory, where was the driveway before we asked you to move it from? Do you recall?
I have a feeling that driveway was lower down the slope, actually. I think it actually came in closer to maybe the front of the house and then swung around. Which
Okay.
would have, you lost that beech. Black oak, I'm sorry, it was a black oak. Now, I think that was what we were trying to save there. That driveway, if you're looking at it, standing in Earl's Lane, that driveway was closer to the right-hand side. And then what happened was it made more of a bend, which cut into that slope up there more, which I think,
Yeah, this black, I think that's what it was.
That's
The
what we're
black oak that
talking
was
about.
right there. We
Yep.
were afraid it was
That's
going
it.
to kill it.
Now, that moved it a little closer to the poplar, but I don't see any grading lines going through
I
there.
actually think that was part of it. They'd rather have the poplar than get taken down than the oak.
and it was going to be much closer to that and crush it.
Am I seeing page 2, your tree protection is on page 2? Or, excuse me, sheet 3 of 3 I have here? Do we have tree protection on the right-hand side of the? I think I see it on the left. It's a dot and a circle. Is that correct? Is that the tree protection?
I think that's what calls for there.
Do we have it on the right-hand side at all? I see it somewhat around some trees, but immediately on the right-hand front, this big grouping of trees here?
Right here?
Yeah. Is there tree protection on this map for that?
I think there is a mix.
3 of 3, yeah. Tree protection is a line and a dot. I see it on the left
Right.
of the driveway entrance.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
I don't see any around the soil stockpile, this beach. I don't see anything there.
And there's going to be obviously some disturbance there, but I think the only thing that's really coming through there is the utility line. Everything else should get access through the driveway and then dig into the basement there.
I mean,
I know the topsoil's there in the front, so.
is this, I wasn't at the other meeting. I don't know if, were you showing tree protection for all these trees here, or?
I'm not sure if we were showing them all the way up in the right-hand corner. I mean, I think that area shouldn't even be disturbed up in there, but.
I mean, we got grade lines going right underneath here on this right side.
What I would recommend, Mr. Ward, is if we have the applicant show tree protection, somewhat mimicking that limit of disturbance line as it comes down, and that will protect your 20-inch beech, 26-inch poplar, the 34-inch black oak, and that whole lower right corner. And then again, if it mimics the limit of disturbance line, it'll take care of any of the other trees you might have concern about.
That's fine. Can they push that stockpile away from that 20-inch beech there? It's like right underneath of it.
We can do that.
There's a couple grade lines going right into a 26-inch poplar. The gray with the dots, Steve, is that steep slopes, or what is that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Ward, which spot are you looking at exactly?
I'm looking to the right-hand side of the driveway where the gas and water line come through underneath the 20-inch beech tree.
There are steep slopes there. There are steep slopes. If you look at the chart here on the right-hand side, you have the dots, 15 to 20% steep slopes.
Okay.
The lighter gray dashed line is a limit of disturbance. So as the applicant said, that juts out for the utility lines to come into the property. But I think if your tree protection somewhat shadows that limit of disturbance line, that should take care of any concerns.
Steve, you're noting the limited disturbance on this first sheet here, the dark black line here. Is that what?
Yes, sheet 1 of 3, no,
Right.
the lighter dash line,
Yes,
and you can see where it extends out because of the gas and water service.
correct.
And my suggestion is if the commission is worried about those trees, the applicant could run tree protection basically following that limit of disturbance line. That'll take care of that 20-inch beech, while starting up top, the 26-inch poplar, and basically anything on the other side. Now, it's not the 6-foot high chain link fence. It was the previous standard, but it's a visual barrier.
And it looks like they actually started at the back half of the property, if you look back there.
With the tree protection?
Tree protection.
Yeah.
It looks like he has it right on the limited disturbance line right now. But like Mr. Norsini said, we could continue that right up that line there.
Well, that's fine. As we move back toward the north side of the house, we come into a 32-inch beech tree. Close to your seepage bed here, be to the right side of your seepage bed. You got a grade line going right through the middle of the tree.
You do. I guess we were probably hoping to try to keep it, I don't know.
You got it. That's not going to make it. You're on a slope here, the grading right on top of it. I'd recommend include that into your removal list. If that's where the seepage bed, if that's the only place you can keep the seepage bed.
Okay.
And these contour lines, it's going to die. Yeah, change it, and it's going to change your replacement calculation. And to tighten up those grade lines if you can toward the house, rather than get down into the slope on top of the remainder of those trees on that right-hand side.
Okay.
I would recommend that tree be removed, that 32-inch beech tree. If these contour lines are going to remain the same and that seepage bed is going to be close to that same location.
Our replacements will go up by 2 more.
Right.
Would be 2 trees.
2 more trees.
2 more trees, yeah, it'll be up to 15.
Is there a chance that on the left-hand side of the property that you can push that existing tree protection fence, give these trees a wider berth, possibly? What I mean is give them more room than presently has with this current tree protection that you have.
You mean on 26 block?
On the left-hand side of the new, left-hand side of the proposed, black oak, poplar, beech, all the way up the line there.
I don't see any reason why, I mean, the driveway, I don't even think that we'll be close to that.
Push that tree protection out as far as you can so that we don't have equipment involved with that, particularly when you're building this topsoil pile here.
Mr. Ward, we could put in the minutes that the tree protection should be brought out to the limit of disturbance. If that, again, let's have them bring it out to that gray line, that gray dashed line. And that way, it's a good note to the reviewing person for that, the reviewer.
Yeah, I mean, if you can push it past that a little bit too, I mean, that'd be good. He has it almost on there now, I think. Okay. Jack, you online here with this? Okay, we have those recommendations. We're going to remove that 32-inch beech in the back. New tree protection that's not on there is going to be on the right-hand side.
Correct.
Push up those grade lines a little bit to get away from those trees along the right-hand side of the new house.
Right.
And move the tree protection up on the left-hand side.
That's fine.
All right.
And would that be okay to go to grading permit from there, as long as staff ensures that those items are
Those
covered?
things are done. Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, Jack. Yeah, he's pushing this tree protection fence all the way up here.
Okay, there is no tree protection shown?
No.
Okay,
So-
so he's putting one in
Yeah,
here.
exactly where
Okay,
the line is.
okay.
This tree's coming out.
Essentially, we're gonna follow the limited disturbance line even a little more if we can.
If you
with the
can.
Right,
As much as you can.
that's fine.
All right, that's fine.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next up is number 5, 916 Eagle Road, addition and stone patio, removing a 38-inch tree. You can come up.
My name is Duncan Hubly, and I prepared the graded plan and indicated the footprint of the addition plus the footprint of the stone patio behind that. And in order to do that, we have to remove a 38-inch diameter tree. And that tree is already surrounded by impervious surface and has some damage. We took some pictures of it, which I think you have in my report.
I got it. Duncan, did you have an arborist report on that tree or anything as far as its condition goes?
No, we didn't get that. I mean, I thought I looked at it, it's surrounded by impervious
I
surface.
see that.
But the picture, if you go look at it, the bark, I don't know what happened to the bark. It doesn't, it looks from the picture that it's really in bad shape, but I don't think it's in that bad a shape as the picture reflects, but it is, it's
Do you know what kind of tree it is? A
it's
poplar or
tulip.
ash?
It's
Is
a
it
tulip poplar. There's a whole bunch of them on the property. And you can look and see, we moved the addition to the building over half a foot so that we wouldn't incur further into the side yard setback, which we're already into. And this was as directed by the zoning officer of the township.
Duncan, where are we with the tree located on this map here?
Well, on the ones that I thought I gave, they're marked in orange. There's a 26-inch tree right here, which it has to be taken down, in my opinion, because it's too close to the construction. And the 38-inch diameter tulip poplar is located right here.
Okay.
And then there's a 12-inch fruit tree, which we're going to try to save because it's right on, as you can see, the path, the 4-foot wide path comes right through the base of it. I don't think we're going to transplant it.
You said you're going to try to save it
Save it by moving the path over,
by moving the path. Okay.
or make it narrow.
Okay.
Like on Lancaster Pike, when they went around the trees there in front of the Acme. They probably ripped them all out, but they tried. We're adding an additional 1,270 new impervious surface, and the system is designed for 1,300, and that's on sheet 2 of the plans. And it's located, as you see, on a diagonal, so that it avoids the tree protection, which is located in dark line around the 3 of the trees, 4 other trees.
Are you going to replace the tulip poplar?
We're going to donate to the tree fund. Mrs. Lau does not want any more trees planted on her property. There's enough. I had met with Howard Holden to ask him about that, but unfortunately he's not here this evening. I think we had to put in 10 trees, 6, 3, and 1.
Correct. So they're going to donate all that to the,
This is,
oh, okay.
we're just asking for some sort of a break on a 38-inch tree, maybe 3 trees instead of 6 trees, since it's not in good shape.
With
Our arborist has not, I mean, the only thing I could tell you on that heritage tree, if the applicant wanted to wait till next month, I can have John Hosback review that tree and get back to this, prepare a report for this board.
Yeah, as it would stand now, we'd want replacement per the ordinance unless it's deemed different by our arborist.
I'm Martha Wheaton Robertson, the architect. It appears that the 2 trees that definitely have to be removed, which is this 38-inch one, the heritage tree, and this one, these trees already have dwelling and or hardscape and hard patio, existing hard patio. It's within their drip line. They're not really healthy, thriving trees. If you look at the limb structure, it's kind of struggling. They're not. I'm just making that comment because normally I try to design an addition that avoids the drip line of a tree, but in this case, this was the only location for this addition that would be practical for these people, that would be cost effective. So, just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you.
we're not gonna take the smaller tree
This
out.
small tree,
We're
more
gonna work
ornamental
it.
tree,
We'll-
we'll do stepping stones as a path from the entrance of the house to the flagstone patio.
That'll take one tree out.
So we're down to 9, right?
We'll spend more moving it around.
Steve, are you calculating, or you doing a calculation for us?
I'm sorry, Mr. Hubley, so I don't have that plan in front of me. So it's one heritage tree that's I don't have that site plan, I'm sorry.
Here, you can take this one, Paul.
So by the ordinance, the letter of the law, if you will, the heritage tree would require 6 replacement trees, 4 of which are large canopy. And you're saving the 12-inch. And the other tulip poplar, I didn't see is the diameter on that 30?
26.
And that comes under the 3 replacement trees, 2 being large canopies. So it would be a total of, again, according to the ordinance, 9 replacement trees, 6 of which are to be large canopy trees.
The replacement value is 500 for the large ones, right? Isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. And what would be for the smaller ones?
I read it as 500.
For all? For each?
Like I say, I mean, the option is,
Right.
if the applicant wishes to wait, I can have our arborist go out, and then you could have a report for the next meeting on the 38-inch, since the applicant's engineer and designer, architect, has stated some concern about the condition of that tree.
If you do feel that there is a condition issue with these 2 trees, you could wait for the arborist to come out, provide you with a report whether it is a hazard or not. That comes back to us, and we decide, he will decide how bad of a hazard it is, and that'll reflect in a break in the compensatory plantings at that time.
Well, it's up to the homeowner whether they want to wait.
So I'm Oliver Lau, I'm the
Okay.
owner.
Oliver.
We would prefer not to wait, so
What-
prefer to find whatever the solution may be, but the
Okay.
solution is today.
So our recommendation would be to replant with the 9 compensatory trees, given if you don't feel there's room on the property to give that to the tree fund.
Which is $4,500?
Correct.
That's correct. You can make arrangements with Mrs. Cassidy this week concerning that contribution.
Steve, what's it cost to have our arborist come out and do a report?
For hazardous trees for residents,
Yeah.
we don't charge a resident for that if there's a request. For a subdivision or land development application or grading permit application, it's $50 an hour. And he would be charged just like any other consultant we have, whether it be a traffic engineer or the review, the township engineer who reviews the plans.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Number 6 is 700 South Roberts Road. To remove 11 trees and replant 18 trees.
Yes, I'm Charles A. Differ and Associates. This is Dave Money. He's the owner of the property. We need some clarification as to, number one, the plan that you're holding, because we did not do the survey. He had someone else do the survey. The plan that you have before you is not for taking 11 trees out. They accidentally were removed. The plan that you have before you is just a preliminary as to have these trees replaced. First question being, since they were removed before the new ordinance came into effect, however, he was, I believe, cited is not the correct word, but the activity was discovered afterwards. Is he under the old ordinance or the new ordinance? Which, of course, will have an impact on the replacement of the trees that he removed.
I'm a little confused. Can you just, you say this shows trees that are already removed? Is that what this is showing?
Now, well, when Mr. Money purchased the property, it's not habitable right now. There's no one in it, but he went in an attempt to clear it out and get it ready, because we're handling the architectural part of the house. He inadvertently went in and started removing brush, and I guess that turned into removing some trees and so forth and so on. And not knowing this, he was somewhat surprised that he has to come here, but I'm sure you've heard this before. He accidentally removed the trees, and it got away from him, but he sincerely apologizes for this, and now he's faced with tree replacement. My question is, since they were removed in December, this is prior to the survey, which these removed trees does not show up on the survey, is he bound by the old ordinance or the new one? Because it will have an impact on how the trees are replaced.
Okay, my question again, the ones shown with on the thing say some are removed already. They have like an eye.
Trees removed, yeah,
Eye.
there's a symbol.
There's a symbol like an eye.
Yeah, these are the ones that were accidentally removed.
Okay, they're the ones that were
Okay,
removed.
yeah.
Okay.
The legend shows the existing trees, trees removed, the replacement trees, and the deciduous trees that are existing.
Now, this was, if I may ask the applicant, when these were removed, I believe this was brought to our attention by somebody, not by the applicant, correct?
Correct. Not by the applicant.
Right, and we required the applicant to come to the Shade Tree Commission, A, for compensatory plantings, because those trees fell under the purview of this commission, and B, because there was no clearing permit or anything obtained.
That is correct.
So the question is whether our replacement schedule goes with our old ordinance or our new ordinance.
Correct.
And when was this brought to light, that you were going to come in front of us?
A couple weeks ago.
That would fall under the new ordinance. March 11th was the time that the new ordinance fell into,
Right.
that came into play.
But the removal occurred in December, was it December? Yeah, he did
But
that in December.
If it weren't for somebody calling us, we would never even have known this took place. So really, you're here, from our department standpoint, because these trees were taken down improperly. So it's more than just coming in for a clearing permit. We're asking you to be here tonight to make amends for the fact that you took a bunch of trees down that shouldn't have been taken down without, knowledge of this board prior.
Okay. So your replacement schedule reflects our current ordinance. All right. So the trees are out. This is the replacement schedule here.
If I may, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, this plan that you're looking at this driveway configuration and this footprint is, it's going to change. It's not going to have this. One of the reasons being that there's a heritage tree right in the road of part of the addition. And it is number,
No,
It's an
it
existing
it
30-inch
says,
maple to be removed.
so we're not discussing that at this point. The new construction has nothing to do with this meeting. You'll be back to us later for
oh,
that.
okay.
We're
That
not,
was one of my questions.
we're only dealing with what has happened with the trees and your
Okay.
replacement schedule. So, under our ordinance, you're required to replace 18 trees, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Of that 18, we have to break this down to the number of canopy trees. So we have, how many trees over 30 inch were removed? It was one?
One, yeah.
Okay, and then
Which was
between,
which to my best of my knowledge was a pine tree.
and then between 19 and 30 is 3? You got 24, 25, and a 12. Oh, okay, I got you. 2?
Yeah, another question I have that I wasn't clear on, it's 2/3 deciduous that you're going to use to replace, or can they be conifers as well?
Right. Out of the heritage tree, over 30, we want 4 canopy trees and 2, whatever else you want to put in. Between the 19 and 30, it's a total of 3, and that's 1 canopy tree, Steve?
Yes, 2
And-
being large canopy, I apologize.
Excuse me.
2 being large canopy.
2 being large canopy, 1 being whatever, and then after that, it's 1 for 1, which is not, does not canopy, is that correct?
What's the total for the 19 to 30 inch that we're looking at? So it's 2 and 1, and there's how many? There's 19 to 29.
Correct.
I see 2. I see a 25 inch
Yep,
and a 24 inch.
correct.
So there's 2 in that category, right?
Yep.
And then that would be,
Yeah. I showed 20 trees, 20 replacement trees. 8 trees at 1, 2 at 3 for 6, and the heritage tree for an additional 6, which would give you 20 replacement trees.
20, so,
And of those 20 replacement trees,
6.
for 8 would be large canopy trees.
Right. Okay.
Large being 2.5-inch caliper, maple or
A canopy tree, per our ordinance, would be a large, mature, would grow to be a large, mature canopy, deciduous canopy tree.
There's,
the
in the back
percentage?
of the ordinance, it states, large canopy trees, trees will have a mature height of more than 50 feet, and it lists them out. So,
Well, yeah, I have them listed here. They're,
Right.
They're all there, yeah.
and you need to make sure you have the latest ordinance.
Yeah, that's not the one that's online.
That is, it says 2012, that's the appropriate ordinance.
All right, so we're under the new ordinance, and I guess a new plan will have to be prepared for, as far as what the footprint's going to be and everything else.
You're here now because these trees were taken down
Right.
without the purview of this board. So you need to determine what has to be done. Now, if you're going to be constructing shortly, if your wish is to construct in short order, I would suggest that you come back to this, are you going to be building soon? I don't know your plans.
He would like to.
Because you're going to get into, you have compensatory plantings for the work that's done, and based on your construction, you may have additional compensatory plantings, or this
what he needs
commission
to
may
show
have
is-
comments, like you've heard tonight, of, contour lines being too close to
He's
the
not saying
trunk.
how many trees,
So-
canopy trees he's putting back in, so.
I would, if you're coming in within a month, I would suggest you combine it.
Where, but
Okay.
where's he going to put them?
But let me, the board has to determine that, not me. Mr. Ward, I was just going through with the applicant. They're here for compensatory plantings for trees that were, for lack of a better term, improperly removed.
Correct.
What I was telling them is if they're coming in almost immediately with a building plan, they should incorporate all that together. So
Correct.
this commission can look at your compensatory plantings, and you should make it very clear, 7 trees removed, here's our compensatory plantings. And then the Shade Tree Commission can look at the plans as they have the others this evening
Go through
and
the
make a
whole process.
determination. It'll make your process
I understand.
quicker. But you need to know that no matter what happens, 20 trees have to go back up.
And your
8 of them have to be
8 of them have to be
Canopy.
large canopy trees, and a number of these are not large canopy trees that you have on your list here, so, the
You
prunus.
say, but 8 of them have to be.
Yes.
Right. And if there's going to be any kind of a lag time, I would request that this commission require an escrow payment from because we do have 2 issues here. So if you're looking at 6 months for applying
Right.
for your building permit, I would request that the commission either have this money escrowed or the trees be installed.
Okay.
That would be our recommendation.
Decide that. Okay.
If there's going to be too much of a lag time before you coming back here, that we have that money escrowed, so that we know that you're going to put the trees back in
Yeah.
after this whole process is over.
Well, that's his decision.
Well,
But
what-
that's
what I would
probably-
request-
Probably what he'll do.
What I would request is that the applicant write back to the township, let us know your plans, and then I can reply and say you need to escrow for the 20 trees.
Correct.
Or you're going to put the trees in and we'll come and look at them and inspect them, or you're applying for a building permit, a grading permit in short order.
Yeah, well, more than likely be the escrow.
Very good.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
very much.
Good night.
Thanks.
Last on this list is number 7, 115 Ashwood Road, 42-inch white ash, wants to remove the tree to create a play area. I didn't get that either.
That's the one that we tabled from last
Yeah, so
time.
it's off the table now. No, not anymore. I would recommend to table this item number 7. It's been in front of us for 3 times now.
Since it's 3 times, we'll contact the applicant and tell them it's denied at this point,
Yes,
and then they can reapply at their convenience.
that's fine. They're not here. We have several hazard tree reports to run through here. "21 Matlack Lane," submitted by Rick's, approved by our arborist, 34-inch DBH. I don't know whether it says what kind of tree it is. Recommend to replace with one shade tree.
I just would like to ask the Shade Tree Commission, and just bringing it to light, that I think you have the authority to require more than one tree replacing a heritage tree, even though it was removed because it was in a dangerous situation, whether it go by the replacement schedule or that. It doesn't have to be, just because that's written on there, that was the way we've done these for some time. And I think in the future, we'll probably leave that alone so you can make your own decision as to what you feel an appropriate tree, if an appropriate compensatory planning is required.
If he deems it, even if he deems that tree to be a hazard,
Yes.
we can ask for
Correct.
whatever to be replaced.
Yeah, it's in the portion of the ordinance where it states the emergency tree, it doesn't note the compensatory plantings, but in other areas regarding heritage trees, it does, so.
So the arborist would just, the arborist will.
The arborist
will
can
now
tell
just-
you that-
We'll leave that blank, or.
Right, and then this commission can decide what, if any, you feel is required.
Okay. All right. The next is 524 St. David's Avenue.
So where are we going with Matlock now?
Matlock was approved with one replacement. The next is 524 St. David's Avenue. Do you guys have that? Okay.
It says with photographs, but I didn't get any photographs.
No. We have a 44-inch maple replant with one shade tree, arborist approved removal. I have a 200 Eagle Road 47-inch oak tree. Again, arborist looked at it, recommended replace with one shade tree. Fourth is a 102 Arbor Place, removal of 24 trees surrounding the house.
That's us.
Oh,
Last but not least.
Last but not least.
Best for last.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Drew Morgan. This is my wife, Lauren. We just moved here. We're just learning about all these rules. We're not familiar with this type of ordinance, but I've now read it all and kind of know about it. We moved in November. We bought a house that the previous residents lived in for 30-plus years. There's a ton of white pines in the backyard. They're all very close to the house. They're all very large. They drop very large branches. We have 2 young children, and we want to remove all these hazardous trees. We've had an arborist come out and do a report, which I'm pretty sure you guys have a copy of. It's just a pretty basic drawing.
It was in the back of that.
Looks kind of like this.
Right, it was left at your place. The impetus for this, the original purpose of this was the applicant had removed 7 trees, again, without coming to this commission. So when I called, Mr. Morgan was contacted and informed of our rules and regulations and requirements under the shade tree ordinance. Subsequent to that, those 7 trees being, the Morgans had intention to take down additional trees.
Correct.
Over the last 2 weeks, I've spoken to Mr. Morgan, and we've been talking about our current shade tree ordinance. So the original reason to reach out to the Morgans was because 7 trees were cut down without appropriate permits or seeing this commission. So now this is, so there's that issue, and then there is now the issue that they have a hazardous tree report from Rick's Tree Service noting the removal of, I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan, is it 24 additional from the 7?
No, 7 of the 24
Were-
are down.
were already removed, so-
numbers 1 through 7 on the list are already down. They're all large white pines, those 7. And then there's an additional 9 white pines, 3 spruce, 2 sweet gum, 1 ginkgo, 1 birch, 1 crab apple. And they've all been deemed damaged, dead, dangerous on this list. Now, we have the Township's arborist scheduled. Steve has him coming out on Friday to confirm all this. So we're just looking to get approval to do the rest of this based on safety reasons.
I'd informed Mr. Morgan, this came up late, and part of it is my communication with Mr. Morgan. I don't think we connected all together.
Yeah.
So that I did contact Mr. Hosback, but it was literally very shortly before this meeting. The best he can do is Friday to confirm the notes of Rick's Tree Service. I believe it's Rick's.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's Rick's. Yeah.
Jim, I don't think we can deal with this now.
who took all the trees down already?
Rick's Tree Service.
Wait a second. Rick already took 7 down
Right?
without a permit?
Correct.
They claimed what they said to us was they did not know we were in Radnor. We had no idea we're from Delaware. I had no idea unless it was something structural to my home. I never thought in a million years I needed a permit for trees. So when someone called and we found out, I automatically called them, and what they told us in the office, the girl that ran it, was we did not know you were in Radnor Township. We did not know Bryn Mawr was in Radnor Township. So here we are. But we had
No, we know, and we've kind of,
That's why we have spoken to Rick himself. We were just,
and I don't know how that all works out, you know. But the 7 trees that were taken down
they were
are,
very
are,
hazardous.
are the most hazardous on the list. I think they were the closest ones to the house. They started on the left and moved to the right, so. And there's still logs laying in my yard.
I'm just very scared because I have 2 little boys. I'm home with them all day, and they're out there playing. And just the other day, they like tripped and fell, and the neighbor saw and called me. And was like, she's actually a real estate agent. She said she had no idea as well. She had listed our home for us. Listed the home we bought actually, and said she had no idea that there was anything such as this as well. And she's lived here for almost 25, 30 years. So she was just concerned because she's seen our children out there. So our biggest problem is just it's been almost a month, and we just really need to clean this up. I'm scared. There's stumps, there's logs, they're piled up. These huge pines. We need to kind of figure something
Well,
Oh,
out, a remedy.
I don't think we have a problem with any cleanup because we know what was taken down now, right? We know exactly what was taken down. They can clean up.
John's going to see the stumps.
Right. I had suggested to Mr. Morgan, I think that the logs and everything that are down, we already came out and took pictures because this was an improper tree removal, and we now know, based on the arborist report, what was removed. So you could clean that up, and that shouldn't be a problem. We know what it is if the commission decides on compensatory plantings or whatever is required. And then, now, we also, obviously, our arborists cannot comment on numbers 1 through 7, but can comment on 8 through 24.
Well, if 1 through 7 are large white pines, and the majority of the rest of them are also large white pines, the species in the proximity to the house is a hazard. So I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to remove dangerous trees from our own private property.
Well, they just have to be deemed hazard by our arborist.
Right. Which he's going to do Friday, right?
So he has to take a look at it,
Right.
and then we have to decide on what the compensatory plantings are going to be.
Well, it's my understanding that if they're hazardous, they're not necessarily needing to be replaced.
Not necessarily. It's all what he decides on, what the hazard we had just discussed. When he comes back to us with a hazard tree report, he generally will say 1 tree or 2 trees or whatever he will decide in the field what has to be replaced, not per what our new ordinance states, but usually it's going to be a couple trees that have to be replaced for taking down trees, yeah. So that whole process has to happen also.
Okay.
So he has to go look at it, then he has to get back to us.
But that's just concerning. I mean, this is trees hanging over our children's windows, and they're not even desirable trees. And to have to pay, I don't even, we saved up for so long to buy this home, to get into this school district, to have a place for our children. We have a child with special needs. This yard is vitally important for his wellness in life, and I can't give that to him with stumps and roots. And I understand, but coming from a financial standpoint, hearing what these other people have to pay to take down these hazardous trees, that's just.
Well, there's people that lie to us every day when they want to take down trees. So
We're
the
not
whole
trying to
goal-
do that.
Exactly. The whole goal of this commission is that doesn't happen.
You know that Rick's already gave you bad information. I mean, just take that for what it's worth.
So if he's.
So
gonna-
we can't just take on face value.
No, I understand that.
Absolutely not.
What I want to do, though, is hopefully John is his name, will come Friday, and then we'll be able to come to some sort of resolution before next month.
Well, I don't think we
can't-
could, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I don't think he's going to approve taking out all these trees before the next meeting. I doubt it. I mean, I don't know if I can speculate on that, but generally, we take like 1 or 2 really, really bad trees out. He might approve taking them out before the next meeting, but all these trees, it's almost like a clear cut of the property.
But they were all very hazardous, hanging over the home. I mean, the people before us did nothing to this property.
It was an elderly couple, they lived there for 30
We never
years.
thought
It was like,
had any idea that this was what it was, ever, because no way, it's dangerous. And they just fall outside of my
we had to stretch ourselves financially to do the job in the first place, and the way they do these jobs is, if they do them piecemeal, it costs us more money. If they come in and they do this job all at once,
Right,
it was able to be afforded by us.
So we could plant our grass and then put up other shrubbery and other things, and for them to come and piecemeal and then bring their things back in. They even said to us, you don't have a swing set yet, you don't have anything here. For us, this is a much easier job.
All right, well, I would first go back to him and say, I want a discount because you lied to me for not telling me I
We're
needed
working
anything.
with
But
that, on a
are you,
separate-
are you planning on replacing any trees?
We're planning on planting privacy trees, like hedges, arborvitae type trees, but not large canopy trees in the yard, no.
We don't want them back in the yard, we need a yard for our children.
How big's the yard?
We have .78 acres. We're right off of Clyde Road in 320.
Okay.
It's a couple houses have all these pines in the backyard, right?
Yeah, and
All-
we've talked to the neighbors, I mean, they've taken trees out. I don't know if they did it improperly or not, but people have put in pools and taken down trees on this street. So, I mean, these large white pines, I mean, right from your own thing, are easily damaged and lose branches in storms and should not be planted in your buildings. So, we gotta get rid of them.
Doesn't seem fair, yeah. It's like bum luck.
And then the sweet gum, and 2 weeks before we purchased the house, and we almost didn't go to settlement because of it. I mean, a huge piece of it fell down, and we had to have the seller, who was very elderly, had to have it removed and cut up. So that one's already messed up. That's the biggest one. The other ones are hanging over my son's window. I'm sorry to get emotional about this, but I don't think I should need to replace these trees, and I think I should be able to keep my family safe by removing them. And I'd be willing to make some sort of a small donation to the tree fund, but, not at $500 a pop.
Steve, what's the earliest John can get? He's going on Friday?
He's going to be there Friday. I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to generate an opinion on these. And just so the commission remembers, we have emergency tree removal, and there's the immediate need, which is impending danger, and then there's the hazardous tree removal. And under hazardous, property owners to contact the township or fill out an online application before removing the tree. And I'm by no means, but that's what it seems like Rick's Tree Service has put in their letter of the 4th,
Right.
that we are in the hazardous tree section.
Right. I mean, if John goes out there, by all means, if there's imminent danger.
Right, it's
to
immediate.
Person or property, that's the immediate problem.
And
So
actually-
that has to be remedied.
And Rick's Tree Service, the way our ordinance is written, if it's immediate, any shade tree described in this chapter may be removed without changing, but the property owner shall report the emergency to the township within 10 days of the removal, and so forth. So there's a real distinction between an emergency tree removal and the hazardous tree removal.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to interpret Rick's Tree Service letter.
He's deemed everything hazardous, basically.
Well, I think they're using the term hazardous because, I
Right,
have
they may
the
not be
hazardous
using
tree
the same
report
words
that I
we're
filled
using.
out. Yeah.
So, see, at this point right now, John goes out, he finds that there's an emergency trees that need to be removed. Can we recommend that those
Be done
trees-
immediately.
Those trees be absolutely done. If there's any
Right.
question about personal property, health of anyone that's involved, those trees go removed right away, without a problem.
And that's why the ordinance is written that way.
Exactly. We're not here to stop anything like that.
I mean, if Rick's thought one was immediate necessity, protection of life or property, really, they could have addressed that right then and there. Call us.
Right.
But, like I say, he's lumped them into the hazardous group, which then requires John to go out.
Right. So John goes out, takes a look at what you have. As you say, if they're cracked and leaning over the house and they're imminent danger, then they have to come out. The remainder of the trees, he has to look at and tell us what's going on and what kind of condition they are. And then we can go from there to make a recommendation about what goes on from here. So we have to wait for his report. Anything that has to come down, comes down right away if it's an imminent danger. Anything besides that, We have to wait for his report to come back. He comes in front of us, tells us what's going on, and we have to make a recommendation from there.
Okay.
So
And that can happen in the interim before the next meeting, or is that at the next meeting?
I think that would be at the next meeting. We'd have to come back and see what his full report is.
Can we do it through email?
Well, we'd have to have a quorum, so.
I'm available to come meet. I can do whatever you guys need to do.
Well,
I want to get this done as soon as possible.
what does that mean we have to have a quorum? Like 4 people on email agree that yes or no or whatever? I mean,
Well, it has to go through.
Yeah, I don't know that you can meet
We
outside of
can't- we
this
can't meet
forum
outside of
without us
here.
noting that the Shade Tree Commission is meeting.
So
How much notice do you have to give to meet the law requirements?
I'd have to check with the solicitor.
what was
I
that
don't know.
question?
How much notice do you have to give in
For-
order for a public meeting?
Oh,
I would check, I'll check with John Rice in that regard.
So at this point, we just have to wait for John to get out there.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what his report says. You know, even if it's a thumbnail, if he goes out there Friday and he turns around and he says, yes, of these 20 trees or whatever it is, 17 of them are hazardous, 4 are, dangerous threat. We can't, there's no way we can expedite or meet in the interim between now and next month.
I don't think so. Any immediate.
I will check with the solicitor, but I don't believe you can do this via email, like an email vote. The commission it's a Shade Tree Commission you meet. And you also have to decide if, no, there are no compensatory plantings, or there are. I will check with the solicitor regarding public notice. I know it's not like a zoning hearing board meeting or anything along those lines. For planning commission.
Parks and Rec.
That's the best we can do at this point to try to alleviate the problem. Any emergencies, absolutely, get addressed. Besides that, it's going to have to come back to us after we view his report, then we can discuss and make a recommendation from there.
Okay. So he'll come Friday.
He'll come Friday. He's going to look at everything you have.
Okay.
If, as you say, there were trees that are in imminent danger to your property or person, absolutely, they can be removed without a problem.
And if he comes back saying the majority of these are,
Remove them.
okay, how will I know what his report is?
Well,
How soon will I be able to see his report?
The way the ordinance is written, if there are trees in imminent that are causing imminent danger, you don't need to appear before this commission. Okay, that's what Emergency Tree Removal Section A states. In case of immediate necessity for the protection of life, any shade tree can be removed. Then the next paragraph goes on to hazardous. So in essence, if your arborist Rick was out there, or if there actually is a Rick, and
There's a
said,
Rick.
this is, there's imminent danger here, nobody in the township wants anybody to get hurt by any means, he can remove that, and he needs to notify us.
Okay.
As far as hazardous trees, that's where it goes on to say you fill out the application and you come to the Shade Tree Commission, and that's why John Hosbach's
Yeah,
going in.
I was unaware that there was a difference between emergency and hazard. I thought it was, I want to put in a pool or
Right.
it's dangerous. So the way I talked to him and the way he talked to me was, we're not clearing stuff, we're taking down.
Right. And honestly,
Trees.
Rick's Tree Service should be fully aware of this. This is not their
They should
first
be.
rodeo
They should- right.
in Radnor Township by
That's-
any means.
Right.
And
I
they
think
should have been
know
able to.
that. Their claim to me was that they didn't know. I guess some of Bryn Mawr is in Montgomery County.
No, but when he wrote this letter, he
Right.
knows our ordinance. He was actually sent a copy. Any licensed arborist in the township was sent a copy. So he needs to help you along there in his vocabulary.
Exactly.
But if you talk to him tomorrow and he tells you there's imminent danger, you need to act. Nobody ever wants to see any resident, life, limb, property because of that. That's why we have that one first caveat in there.
Okay. Yeah, I
But-
was unaware.
But
of
if
that.
it's a
He didn't say
hazardous
anything.
tree, and like I say, Rick's Tree Services is aware of our former and current ordinance.
Okay.
Question, he asked a legitimate question. after John goes out there on Friday, he's going to be able to say, these trees A, B, and C, whatever they are, these constitute an emergency or dangerous situation. How's he going to know that? I mean, can he call up the township on Friday afternoon and?
I want to rely on John.
Right. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't, I spoke to John Hosback Tuesday. If there was an issue with an emergency tree, I would not wait for the township arborist to be there Friday. I would address it tomorrow.
I don't know what's an emergency.
Well, that's-
I have
that's
a picture
where-
of a tree here. I don't know if this is an emergency or not, but that's hanging over my son's bedroom window. That's just one of the trees. There's
Touching the roof
6
of the house.
behind that that are also 5 feet behind that,
I mean, if this tree was cracked and laying in this other tree, then it's an emergency, do you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think it's cracked, but
That's,
it's
that,
hanging over his window.
that's what I'm saying. If it was cracked and coming out of the ground and it's heading to the house, it's imminent danger. So, just because it's leaning doesn't mean that it's imminent danger right now.
That's what I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's what upsets us, is to take that risk, like while our child plays up there. That's what's scaring us. It's just dropping branches. I just can't wait for him to come out and see the branches.
That's one of the
Every day
smallest.
I hear them pound outside of the window. It's a daily thing with these trees. The wind blows too hard on a normal day, they fall over. The fact that none of these fell over the hurricane. Have the branches taken off.
Well, if the tree is 70 feet tall and it's 30 feet from the house, no. Well, I want the trees taken out. I want the whole tree. The whole.
If you're so concerned about safety with branches,
Well, the problem's solved when the tree is gone.
Well, we need to,
That's his drawing of where the trees are
And distance
their
from the
proximity
house.
to the house.
Yeah. But I just want
So
the
he
Morgans
drew
to
them at a
know,
90-degree parallel.
if there's
I didn't-
imminent danger,
No,
you
I
can
understand.
address it
I don't
outside of
know
this.
if there is.
But you can address it outside of this commission. If there is imminent danger,
I think we're just concerned though.
You know,
what I'm
To
just
me,
hearing is,
all
to
the
us,
trees on
we
this list
feel
are
it's
imminent
yeah,
danger.
we feel it is.
So if
Our
I call him
children
and have him
are
cut all
tripping
those
over
trees
the
down
roots.
tomorrow,
Right, we don't wanna
is that
have
okay?
Right, that's our concern, because
These trees are
we're
70
hearing
feet
cut
tall
branches
and they're
off
40
that.
feet from the house, meaning if that tree
Tree
falls on my
falls,
house,
right, and
it cuts
it's
right
dead
through.
at the top, or one is dropping branches
Well,
and
And
I
they're
think-
white pines.
I
and
think
they fall
Mr. Ward,
easily.
Mr. Ward touched on the difference between imminent and hazardous in his, what he talked about.
I know, but
we have trees all over township that, that are similar condition, that
Right.
we just can't give everyone the right to cut all the trees on our property because they're leaning. So that's why we have to go through the protocol here. So John goes through, okay. Absolutely, I mean, if there's a tree coming out of the ground, a layperson can see it, or it's cracked in half, everybody knows that's imminent danger, okay? A layperson can figure that out.
Okay.
You just have a leaning tree, could be in a hazardous condition, 10% lean or something like that. We have to have arborists come out just to verify that, and then we can go on from there.
Okay. So he's going to come out, he's going to say, these are all hazardous, they're not imminent danger.
Well, I don't know.
That's what I think he's going to do.
Well, maybe if there's a situation like you're describing, I mean, maybe some more trees, maybe it is imminent danger, I don't know.
None of them are cracked, to my knowledge. One of the biggest one is, but
I mean, from his report, Rick's report didn't say this is going to fall on your house tomorrow. He didn't. He
no,
didn't say
it
that.
didn't say that.
If he had said that in his report, yeah, that's got to go. You know what I mean? You can't- That's paramount here.
What I'm worried about is that John's going to come out and either say these are hazardous, I'm going to come back here and be strapped with $5,000 in replacement costs, or he's going to say these aren't hazardous at all and you can't take them down. And I want them down, so I don't know what to do.
You can always appeal to the Board of Commissioners if you're not happy with what we say.
Okay.
I mean,
And I
that's-
spoke
that's
to Elaine
again a-
Schaefer last night, and she kind of
Right.
explained some more. I mean, she did say that if they are hazardous, they do not need to be replaced.
Well, it's in the ordinance that.
It's not a requirement, like the hazardous, that's why on there was what John Hasback recommended one tree.
Right.
For the hazardous trees.
If we have he gives us hazard tree reports, and that's his recommendation is, if you're going to take down a 38-inch hazardous oak tree, that you replace it with, not 6 trees, but 1 or 2 trees.
That's a recommendation,
That's a
though.
recommendation.
That's not required by the ordinance.
Okay.
Right,
It's
Okay.
not required.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a recommendation, so.
right. So we're on what? Today's Wednesday? He'll be there Friday?
And then will
Can
I
he-
be able to see his report once it's completed?
Steve, can he?
That's a matter of public record, yes, absolutely.
But if he's there and he says, okay, these 5 are, I'm telling you now, these 5 are
I'm going to
imminent
be there when
danger.
he's there on Friday.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to be at the house. I
Right,
can
so if he
speak to
says,
him then.
these are imminent danger, take them down, go, that's fine. These, I can say, the rest of these, although they're not written down yet, but the rest of these are hazardous. Is that good enough for them to act at that point, or do we have to wait till we see something in
Well,
writing from John?
I think it's up to this board. You could move forward and say, based on John's report, if everything is deemed hazardous or imminent, they're allowed to remove the trees. The caveat is, what happens if he says no, he does not concur? I don't know that that will happen.
Well, I think we could move forward and say, if there, whatever he deems hazardous or imminent danger, they can remove. And then if there's things that aren't hazardous or imminent danger, then we got to figure out what you got to do.
Then
with
they
the
could come
hazardous.
back in May and work out removing trees that aren't, maybe that aren't. And I don't know. I can't speak for John, and I'm not an arborist. I'm not a certified arborist.
You're not? You do everything else.
Civil engineer.
The only issue is going to be, is out of the trees that are already removed, how he's going to, I mean, do we have any pictures or anything of all the trees that are already removed?
They're all still there.
All the wood is still there?
The logs are still there,
We
the
have some
stumps are still
pictures.
there. And they're
And
white
if-
pines, and they're all rotted in the middle, too.
And John Hosback can, if that's the case, he could opine on trees 1 through 7.
No pun intended. Opine. Oh.
I guess that comes back to us after, if he finds that there are trees that are not hazardous, in a hazardous condition, and the applicant still wants to remove the trees, we have to make recommendations from at that time.
Right. My thought would be that they would come back to this commission in May and say there's X trees that were not determined, and we wish to remove them. And then this board, the commission works from there.
And do we want to say that? Or preliminarily giving them the authorization to take down anything which is deemed hazardous? Not just emergency.
Well, that was the point that was brought up, which is a good point. If there are hazard trees, John deems it hazardous to go ahead and remove those hazardous trees. And then when they come back to us for the rest of the trees that they want to remove that aren't hazardous, we discuss if there's compensatory trees that he's going to suggest to replace those that are hazardous or not, or whatever he says.
Well, then, just so I understand, so is the Shade Tree Commission is telling me when the township's arborist goes to the property, if he deems that any trees are imminent or hazardous, the Morgans have the ability to remove them without coming back to Shade Tree?
Jim, is that setting a precedent, though? Because the procedures for the hazardous trees calls for us looking at that at the meeting, doesn't it?
The report?
In terms of the ordinance.
I didn't know that we had to vote on an already approved.
Well,
tree. We had to talk about his recommendations.
Your microphone's not
I
on.
think it was regular hazardous tree report, what do we do? We actually approved?
No, didn't we just
that-
go
that-
through that?
that's
We
what
just,
we do.
that
We
was
just-
just, we went
right,
through.
we
There was a
just-
listing of hazardous trees and
and then we-
there was a recommendation to replace it with one.
Correct.
That's all we really do
We
to
just
address
approved
those.
his recommendation.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
So,
But at the meeting, though.
If there are trees that are not deemed hazardous or emergency, the Morgans would come back
We
and
will come back in May.
talk to this.
talk about it.
correct.
Discuss those trees.
So we're in agreement about that.
Yes. So anything hazardous or
Deemed
imminent,
imminent.
remove them. And then anything that is not, we got to talk about it and figure out how we either replace them or compensatory or
And
nothing.
maybe the Morgans would come back anyway, even if they're all deemed hazardous, to just go over the plan of the arborvitae or whatever they're planning to plant. You might consider some of that compensatory or not. But if you're going to put up a privacy line of trees.
I don't know when we're-
For hazardous trees, Jim, it says hazardous tree removal. Property owner is to contact the township or fill out an online application before removing the tree. When the application has been signed by the Shade Tree Commission or designee, the tree may be removed.
So
We haven't been following that. And they just notified us.
Well, no,
How's that
because,
for
no, the
notification?
ones
I
we
don't know.
approved today, we approved at the meeting,
Well, could,
But no-
could,
but they were removed before, right?
Right, was nothing was filled out, and
Well, the township arborist did go, and he,
he's
Right.
your designee.
right,
Right.
he is,
Signed off
he
on
is
it.
your
Yeah.
designee, our designee.
Yeah,
does that sound?
But we are, in this specific instance, this specific piece of property at this particular time, so we're not setting a precedent for this
There
going
you
all the
go.
way. Okay.
I won't tell anyone.
Oh, it's on TV.
We're on television.
Everyone's watching. All Radnor Township is watching this right now.
Aren't you glued to the TV every other Wednesday or something?
You'll see me
No,
on
when I
Thursday at
found out it
Parks
was
and
on
Rec.
TV,
so.
that was all surprising.
Okay,
All right,
We
we're got a
appreciate it,
consensus on
gentlemen.
that?
you're welcome. I think
Yeah.
that concludes our meeting.
Thank you.
Arbor Day is on Friday. Just let everyone know.